Hi, I'm Gail, and I want to share a little bit about the beginning of my spiritual path. There was actually no, moment of beginning, but this is going back a little over 25 years. I became interested in Buddhism and meditation, and I was reading a lot about meditation and finally said to myself, well, you're going to have to actually sit down and meditate one of these days. So I started meditating, and the first big opening happened in, well, the first and second long meditation retreats, 10-day silent retreats that I did. And the first one, it was a stunning discovery when all I was doing was sitting and being and watching my experience. And that in and of itself was mind blowing for me, literally. So I was able to sit in a peaceful state and notice that there were feelings that I hadn't been aware of basically my whole life. A lot of thinking, and a lot of the thinking was negative. It was critical and self critical judgments of other people and just random negative commentary. And it was just a wonderful discovery for me to realize that that was probably the source of a lot of suffering that I was experiencing. So there was sadness, confusion, frustration in my life in general. There was a lot I didn't know about just how to live in the world. And when I was able to observe my experience during that first retreat, it became pretty clear to me what the problem was, that there were these objects, the thoughts, and lots of negativity. And there were some feelings at the time that I was aware of. And these were what was driving my experience in the world, my everyday living experience as a human. And when I was able to observe them, there was a sense of freedom that I experienced. And it was a big insight for me to understand the why I was suffering. And it was because I was buying into all of those negative thoughts and having feelings that I didn't even realize were there. So that was one of the big insights that I had that was super helpful to me. Prior to that, I had had quite a bit of therapy, maybe 15 years or so. As I look at it now, it didn't really do a lot to help me, but that insight really helped. And it got me super interested in understanding more about my inner experience and what was going on. And then I did several Buddhist retreats and eventually realized that Buddhism wasn't my path. And through some friends, I became exposed to the non dual teaching. And that's when things absolutely started to be very fiery for me. As soon as I realized there was something about essential freedom that I could discover, and I really believed that it was possible to discover, I was absolutely on fire to know. And I got myself in front of a bunch of different teachers, and I was part of the 3-year program with Gangaji and her husband, Eli Jackson Bear, that focused on the Enneagram. That was very helpful for me. And I was at a point in my life where I would have gone anywhere and sought out anyone who I thought could support me at that time. I absolutely believed that what other people seemed to know and experience, that that was possible for me also to know and experience. So that was a huge fire for me, that and an openness around that. Like I wasn't afraid, I wasn't doubting that possibility. I was very, very open to whatever would come in that I would need to experience so that I would make this discovery about my essential nature and the nature of reality. And that fire has continued all these years. And even today, it's a little different now, but my fire for the truth, for knowing, for reflecting inward about any inner blocks that appear is huge. It's the driving force in my whole life. And what I love most is the freedom that comes from that, the sense of peace that's possible, and the knowing of who I'm not, which is any of these beliefs and objects and stories, and the knowing of who I am, which is the energetic, alive field that's completely empty and totally full, that's beyond all the objects. And that's my true love.